Puke cats on laptops, and welcome to a purely scientific review not of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. More accurately, it's a review of the one thing that does not work in this joyous celebration of flashing colors and people who shoot webs. Already we're not starting great, but hey, like Elizabeth Warren, we persist. To be clear, I love this movie. It is thoroughly excellent. I even recorded a script giving my full feelings on the film. But after listening back, I realized that I had nothing new to add to the cultural conversation. Many other internet folk had already lovingly picked clean the bones of Peter Parker's chiseled carcass. Most of them far more eloquent than I. It's arguably the best Spider-Man movie ever made, with its razor-sharp writing and bottomless well of imagination with which to pull beautiful ink paintings that move real fast. It breaks the usual limitations placed on fan service and treats each reveal and cameo as a reasonable story fodder, given the bonkers, universe-hopping premise, and it does so spectacularly. That is, except for one teeny tiny Kingpin. He is so boring. Despite this absolute objective truth, the movie is no worse off. It's still excellent, it's still funny and charming and emotional, but holy shit, is Kingpin boring though? Well, it's not necessarily Wilson Fisk's own fault. He's a serviceable villain with a serviceable motivation who acts as antagonist and impetus for much of the story's action. He is directly why Miles becomes Spider-Man, why he needs to become Spider-Man, and why there are so many other Spiders-Man to be dealt with. I think that my and others' apathy towards the large black rectangle stems from how disconnected and trite his motivations are. He wants to bring his dead family back to life. It's a tale as old as time. But outside of the contrived reason for his family's death, they saw him fight Spider-Man and so drove into the path of an oncoming truck. It doesn't do anything. There's no meaning behind it. Miles doesn't learn anything from it, nor does Kingpin himself, or Peter, or Gwen, or anyone. It's just that a woman fridged cause he was fighting Spider-Man, and now he'll burn all reality if it means seeing them again. Then he loses them again on the time train because Ghost family saw him fighting Spider-Man again. I imagine they go on to be hit by a ghost truck. It's all very sad. So Kingpin's obvious reaction to this cyclical nature of reality is to keep fighting Spider-Man, the very thing which caused him to lose his family in the first place, and now, once again, in ghost form. I wish I could be committed to anything the way that Kingpin is committed to destroying himself. He learns nothing, gains nothing, and contributes nothing outside of moving the plot along. He's a somewhat human-shaped plot bulldozer, putting the pieces in place, then wiping the board as to move on to the next set. The stakes are neither raised nor the tension broken. Fisk simply goes right back to his punch times so that Miles can learn his lessons about strength, grief, and the destructive power of subtle sexual advances. Yes, that is technically what happens. Because we care about Miles and his journey, it's still effective. But could there be a better way? A way to improve perfection? Well, if one random fool on the internet who has never been paid to write a movie has anything to say about it, then maybe. Hear me out. I think that with one small change, the climax of Into the Spider-Verse could have the same spark of creativity and emotion that permeates the rest of the film. Just change the final boss. So, I did a little digging to look up villain types online, but most of the people I read were talking more about archetypes and personality, which, cool. But I'm talking about some general mechanics that I call internal versus external villains and scary versus fun. Internal and external describes the villain's relationship with the hero and or the hero's world. Internal villains are a part of the hero's inner circle, secretly a friend or a family member, or a known and trusted entity in the community or world at large. Think Scar from The Lion King, Darth Vader, Red Hood from the Batman comics. Then there's external. These are outsiders to the world, either outcasts, shunned by society, or mysterious strangers from out in the wider realm. To continue the motif, think Ursula from The Little Mermaid, the Predator from Predator, or everybody's favorite psychopathic criminal, the Joker. With some exceptions, typically internal villains end up being scary, and external villains are scaled to counter the overall tone of the world. If the world is overall whimsical, lighthearted, or fun, then the true villain of the work is probably going to be hardcore, menacing, and stern. If the overall tone of the work is grounded in emotional earnesty, then any external villain will likely be whimsical and eccentric, or strange and otherworldly. Either way, the goal is to uproot the audience from their expectations and present a villain as intriguing or unpredictable. Making a close friend or family member into an emotional void or monster helps to unsettle and add weight to the conflict, while making an outsider strange or eccentric helps to separate them from the status quo and show just how much the world might change based on their influence. 2018's Black Panther actually contains great examples of both villain type. Eric Killmonger is introduced to us as an innocent child, so seeing how violent and ruthless he becomes is a striking concept. When he's revealed to be of royal blood directly connected to our main character, it furthers his connections to the story and how dangerous he is to the world our heroes hold dear. Ulysses Klaue offers an archetypal stranger. He's odd, his actions are big, and his personality heightened. He feels out of place in the self-serious world of Wakanda. He doesn't belong there, and therefore, he can't be predicted. So, I know what you're asking. Where in the Spider-Verse are these types of characters? First up, the Prowler! I cannot think of a more powerful introduction of a villain into the popular zeitgeist. He has a cool, iconic suit, a direct and powerful connection to Miles, our lead character, and a musical sting so cool it could snap an icicle. Uncle Aaron could stand in as an interesting philosophical counterweight. He's created a nice life for himself, for his nephew, by pulling himself up by the bootstraps and taking from a world that's offered him almost nothing. In a land with such little opportunity, it makes sense that you'd look out for yourself in any way you can. And if one of the dudes from the triplets of Belleville hires you to kill Spider-Man, and you can, why not take the money? It certainly isn't a good point of view, or even an accurate one, but it's sympathetic to a degree that allows for a deeper dive into what I imagine is Uncle Aaron's motivations and backstory, that we are sadly left without by the end of the film. A climactic fight against the Prowler could have had an emotional weight and philosophic depth that the current bout sorely lacks. The heart-wrenching final battle before a hungry sellsword and a disillusioned boy, now seeing his idol for what he has become. But, I hear you saying, the moment the Prowler learns Miles is Spider-Man, he gives up his quest to kill him. He could never hurt his nephew. And you're right. Enter Octodoctopus. Dr. Octopus. That was so close. Oh man. That's embarrassing. Cut this out of the show, Mr. Octopus.
We're live.
What?
Live to tape.
I don't think that's a real thing.
Are you a producer?
No. I'm the talent.
So maybe quit your yammering and get to the beak flapping.
Jeez, saucy much?
Sorry, I haven't had lunch yet. It's low blood sugar.
Oh, Bucket. Thank you. But it's you who is the best. Why, if someone kidnapped you, I would be heartbroken. Probably me and anyone close to me would rush into any situation to save you, probably without looking or thinking first.
You don't say.
Doc Ock might not have the most original motivations. Scientific curiosity above logic and decency is a trope that we've seen many times before, and has even less to do with Spider-Man himself than Fisk did. But outside of the scientific acumen to allow for universe hopping, Octodoctopus— oh, so close! I felt like I was on a roll there. But then I did that goof.
Hey, Mecha Pig, do you think you could speak into the mic directly?
Almost. I am still in my devastation over slipping and saying Octodoctopus instead of the clear and obvious name Dr. Octopus. Ooh.
I don't think it's that big of a deal. We can probably edit it out.
Actually, we're live to tape.
Is that a real thing?
It's all I got in my breakfast burrito. It is for me.
You become a different person when you're hungry.
Octodoctopus. It means nothing! Dr. Octopus has one huge advantage. She's awesome. Her aesthetic and personality are instantly readable, clear, and fun. Her powers and moveset allow for a wide array of creative web-slinging and gravity-defying set pieces and action beats. And Kathryn Hahn's charismatic voice acting just punch through and allow the character to overcome the generic motivation and become something infinitely more watchable and enjoyable than most villains in animation in general. And after the quiet disagreement about who owned the particle accelerator, it would have been very easy to have written in a scene in which Dr. Octopus betrays Kingpin, takes the particle accelerator for her own, and uses it to do some kind of science thing. I'm not the writer here, but it practically writes itself. She wants to open up a portal to other versions of her. Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! She opens up a portal to get other versions of herself. To imagine the brain power. Her, Alfred Molina, the bowl cut man, all of the octopi, octopodes, octopuses. Who knows what the root word is for octopus that would lead to its plurality? And then she opens the doorway and all of these other octopus people come out to fight all of the spider people. And there's this epic battle of octopus versus spider, 8 legs versus 8 legs. It writes itself and it's so good. Can you cars and colorful, there's no other way to say it, architecture vomit. There's many other ways to say it. I'm sorry, everyone. Robot arms, jelly arms, and webs flying all over the place. Could be so many fun references to the many appearances of Dr. Octopus. It could have been brilliant. And to finally defeat Spider-Man, not just in one dimension, but across all the Spider-Verse. Oh my god. And they waste it on a big brownie with a little butterscotch face. Now I'm mad. Now I've accidentally written a good ending to the movie, and now I'm mad. Anyway, it's still a great movie, and you should still watch it. It's on Netflix as of the recording of this video. If you'll excuse me, I gotta go see it again. Come on, Bucket, let's go watch it at... Bucket? Bucket? 297, did you see where Bucket went?
No, I was sleeping while standing because you were taking a while with what you were saying and I wasn't completely interested.
Okay, well that's not great for your job and somewhat hurtful.
So this is what they find valuable. Don't worry, little one. After I see my friend, it'll be like none of this ever happened. Why, what's wrong with it?